Hello and welcome to the Primis Proposition Vodcast. Hear the Lion Roar. I'm Chris Mason, Proposition Manager, and I'm joined by my colleague and fellow Proposition Manager, Liz Wilkie. Hello, Liz.
Hello, Chris. Great
How...
to be here today. I'm excited for today, although I do think we might need subtitles with all the regional accents going on today. No, really excited because backed by popular demand, we've got Scott McLaughlin, the intermediary key account manager from LVGI today. Some of you may have seen him at our halftime events doing his presentations, and they went down very well and were very popular. So, hi, Scott. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, thank you for having me. So Scott McLaughlin, Strategic Account Manager at LV. And yes, had a busy couple of months at the moment with Primus. As you said, these halftime events, they went down an absolute storm. It was fantastic to get out there to so many of the locations and talk to a number of the brokers out there about our proposition. So that was really, really good. But like I say, I have been in this role for 8 years now, working with LV, always within the GI space. So hopefully I know a little bit when it comes to home insurance. But my main purpose is working with you guys and really trying to get across the importance of home insurance in a market where there are many other products that can and are sold by brokers, and my job is to try and make sure the home insurance is number one on that list, which is a challenge, but we'll get there.
That's brilliant, Scott. And as Liz said, if you haven't got a Midlands accent, you're not allowed on this podcast today. Okay, so we've got a number of questions for you today, though, Scott, and we're going to be touching on the current state of the GI market, good and bad. Let's say how the sales process could be adapted, and how LV can assist brokers as well in quoting home insurance. So there's plenty for us to cover in today's podcast. So strap yourself in. Lizzie, have you got the first question for us, please?
Get straight to the chase. We know that lots of people have been feeling the pinch. Actually, today the news has just dropped that inflation has risen slightly, and we know that people are really starting to struggle, and insurance premiums are on the rise. Could you cover off and give us a bit of a backstory as to why these premiums are increasing, please, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, talk about let's go back straight away, Liz, but okay. Insurance premiums, it's number one topic. It's the reason my phone rings, as much as what it does when people are doing a quote. They're seeing what the price is, whether that is from a new quote or a renewal. It's saying, why does it cost this much? And there's probably a handful of reasons to that we can jog through. Within an industry where we do pay out claims, and we pay out a lot of claims. Now, one part of me thinks that is absolutely brilliant, because that's why we're here. You buy home insurance to buy a product that puts you back in the position you were in should that event have never happened. So when we are paying out claims, it feels like we're ticking the box. We're doing what we said we would do, which is great. But then ultimately, if we're paying out claims, there's only one person that's going to pay for that, policyholders. Now, it's the claims of the few that pay for the policies of the many. That's what the terminology that people use in this channel. But it is true. And as long as we are paying out the genuine claims, it's not a problem. People accept that. It's when people try and put through those fraudulent ones, or the ones that aren't quite, they don't seem right, that causes problems when it comes to some of those premiums. But looking at a handful of the reasons of why we've noticed these really, I'd say, large jumps in premiums, we could put that down to 3 or 4 things. First one, we had big freeze events. Now, every year it feels like we have these cold spells that just hit us from absolutely nowhere. You had this moderate weather, then all of a sudden everybody's boilers kick into life that they haven't been used for 3 or 4 months. They're expected to go full pelt for 7 or 8 hours a day. It causes, like I say, so many burst pipes or frozen pipes that are now kicked into life all of a sudden, that causes, big escape of water problems or whatever that may be. And we get a lot of those, and these freeze spells happen more and more frequently now in the UK. We all know that, living in the West Midlands, we get it more than anybody. I'm sure we agree with that. But a staggering number, and I'll put this to both of you, you can answer this one, but back in 2022, I know it was many, many years ago, and the last 5 years just merge into one, don't they? But in that year, there was one particular cold spell that we had that was really, really cold, if you remember it. Over a 5-day period, if you were to put a monetary sum of money to it, how much do you think LV paid out in claims over a 5-day period in that cold spell?
I'd struggle to hazard a guess. Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to go 20 million.
Wow.
What do you reckon, Liz?
If you can't do a number, Liz, go higher or lower. I'll give you that.
Well, I was going to go for about 5 million. I was thinking maybe £1 million a day, but I'm going to go for about 12 now.
Well, £70 million it cost LV.
Really?
Doing 5 days. So you can see it's 5 days of cold weather. You think it's not that bad. But if you've never got £70 million worth of claim costs that have gone out the door, how many people needed us when they needed it most? That's the important statistic to take from that. Yes, it's a huge number. It's one the business needs to explain somewhere, when they're doing all of the end of year reports. But that meant there were thousands of people in that amount that we helped when they needed it, whether that was alternative accommodation, heating, drying a property out, or whatever it may be. There was something there that hopefully helped them when they needed it most. And that's quite nice to feel. That's a nice feeling, isn't it, when you work in this industry, to know you did that something there. And on the flip side of that, when you have these big freezer spells, we haven't had one this year really, but we had pretty nice summers over the last couple of years where we've had these baking hot temperatures where people have decided to have holidays in the UK rather than go off into Europe because, like I said, the sun has been amazing, which is brilliant. Problem when you get these really long dry summers, we get subsidence claims because the ground dries up and that causes us huge problems later down the line. So we see those coming. Let's say when we monitor weather patterns all the time, and it's things we have to put in our own reserving models for claims. So when we see, like I say, hot weather coming, we know we need to be prepared for that. At some point in the year, we're probably going to be hit with subsidence claims, and they are on the increase. It happens more and more and more, believe me. Storms. And again, because obviously you guys are local, I'm sure you had this one this week. We had that. It was like early in the morning. We had a big thunder and rainstorm event, didn't we, for a few hours?
We did.
Yeah, there were actually a couple of houses that were hit not far away from where I live. They were hit by lightning. 3 houses set alight. Absolutely,
and you've literally stole my answer from me. It was what I was going to say. Is that's something you would never think about happening to your house as it being struck by lightning, but it happened locally to us. That these houses were struck, and what damage did that cause? We don't know yet. Did we insure any of those? We don't know. Like I say, we haven't looked into all that data yet. But we're getting more and more storms all the time. You put the news on, and we go through the alphabet of storms, don't we? We have storm Alpha, Beta, Charlie, Delta. It goes through all of them. And I think when we got to about, I want to say it was July, we were nearly halfway through the alphabet in naming the storms, and we're only halfway through the year. And we've got autumn and winter to come yet. So it's like, where are we going to end up with? Are we going to be going all the way back around the alphabet again? So the storms are happening more and more frequently as well. And obviously, as I said, worst case scenario, lightning. Yeah, that's a terrible thing. It's really horrendous. But then you got what wind damage was caused, or wind damage from debris that was blown across the road, or anything like that. They all link together. And like I say, you can already see so far, we've talked about 3 different things in the UK that seem polar opposites from each other. Cold spells, dry summers, storm events, they're really odd, but we see them happening more and more, don't we, in the UK. And then the other one that goes into this, and this is probably the one that everybody will say about cost, is inflation. And that impacts everything. It impacts the cost in us doing our jobs, it impacts people that are answering the phones, it's the people that are going out to the properties repairing damage, and then ultimately all the materials that go along with it. I mean, do you remember when we were in lockdown and people were trying to buy plasterboard from Wickes and things like that, and all of a sudden the cost of plaster and plasterboard was through the roof because the demand was there? That hasn't gone away. Although everything is now in stock and you can get these things, the price isn't coming back down of those. It's going the other way. So things are still costing more than what they did. So we are in a position where I can't wave a magic wand and say, yeah, in prices, they're going to come crashing down at the minute. We're in a place where they've increased. And we just need to see, are they going to keep creeping up, or are we just going to hold for a little bit now? Because what you're seeing in the market is, it bounces a little bit, inflation drops, great. Bank of England do their thing, brilliant. And like you said, Liz, earlier in the call, we've now seen inflation just creep up again a little bit. So we just got this bouncing effect at the moment. And I think we are in just a period of stability where we just need to see what happens, how is that impacting us, and when it's right to do so, we can start addressing insurance premiums when it's right to do that. But ultimately, everybody's in the same boat. It is not just us that is no advice. Every insurance provider you speak to will have the same challenges and reasons. I'm sure of that. So hopefully that gives you something about what we're seeing from premiums.
Thanks for that, Scott. And it's great that you've highlighted those external factors, which sometimes some people don't remember. However, with with the cost increases in mind that you've kind of touched on there, do you have any advice for our advisors on how to tackle the increase of premiums with their customers?
Yeah, I think I referenced a little bit on the answer I just said, which is we will get a call from an advisor that will say, we've had a renewal quote, or I'm doing a quote and it's it looks expensive. And the first thing that I say, and if it seems a bit harsh, it's not meant to come across that way, but it's compared to what? Because if you just pluck a figure off the system and you say it costs £40 a month, that's expensive. Okay, but what are you comparing that to at the moment? Like, give me some sort of, comparisons to work with. And then we've got an idea on, is that expensive? We do it with everything else, don't we? When you go shopping and you buy a loaf of bread or whatever you want to buy from the shop, the shop down the road might be 20p cheaper. So you've got that comparison. So I would always say, first and foremost from advisors, get a comparison. So then we're in that right headspace. Is it expensive or is it actually right? Because we do see that more and more. The second one that I'll say with that is, everything is a little bit smoke and mirrors when you shop for insurance, when you're going on comparison sites. You are in that space of, look what you could have won. So everything looks cheap when you put that initial detailing, but when you get into the nitty gritty of it and you're fine tuning quotes and you're confirming, it is 6 bedrooms and it's been extended and all this, all of a sudden that £20 a month has disappeared to £45, £50 a month. So now it's not cheaper anymore, because now you've got an accurate premium to compare it to. So don't always be led by what you see on the screen if you're going elsewhere like a comparison site. Get to the point when you know what the premium is and then have a conversation on, right, this is what I've got, this is what you've got. We're about the same, we're actually cheaper, or we're not. And sometimes if we're not cheaper or you find we're cheaper, cost isn't always everything. Now, I know that's an easy argument to say because we all like to get something for cheaper than what we like to, don't we? But if you pay cheaper for something, expect a cheaper service is what I firmly believe on that. And, pay cheap, buy twice, that sort of thing, isn't it? So cost isn't always everything. And especially when you think about your cars, you ensure your cars are fully comp, because you need that car all the time, don't you? And it's something that you go, well, if I don't have that, I can't get to work, or I can't take my kids here, or I can't go there. So I'm going to make sure I've got this product and policy that puts my car back on the road. Home insurance should be no different from that. It really, really, really shouldn't. Hopefully that gives you something, Chris.
Thank you, Scott. No, absolutely. That's really informative, mate.
So you touched on something that sort of sparked my interest there about sort of drilling down and getting the correct information. So personalisation is really key with GI. With any kind of advice service, I suppose. But have you got any tips that would assist our brokers in enabling them to give more personalised, bespoke advice?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I'll say is I've got a little demo that I can work with to try and break this up a little bit, which I think is a bit of fun. But what I will say as well is, sadly, in the world we're in a minute, you only need to put on the TV, the radio, or an advert on social media where you are smacked in the face with some of the horrendous statistics of some of the critical illnesses that, 1 in 2 people will get cancer, or, there's some of the critical illness going around, or you might work at a company that now decides to close its doors for the last time after being in business for 200 years. These sort of things are always in the media and advertised and spoken about a lot. So when you're having to have a conversation as a broker with somebody about life insurance or income protection, the job's half done for you, because the awareness and the need for it is already done by them seeing some of these statistics that are just out there. And like I say, they are out there and they're horrendous to hear. So you're like, well, it becomes almost tangible for them, because they're like, yeah, it seems like 1 in 2 people might get cancer. I don't want to be that one person. Or if I am, I want to make sure I've got something to help me with that. Or I want to make sure if my job does go bust, I've got that money coming in to keep it going. Because even though a company's been around for 100, 200, 300 years, there's nothing saying it might not be there tomorrow at all. You don't know what's going on. Home insurance doesn't work the same way. I could ask you guys, when you think about home insurance, what does home insurance cover you for? Liz, name me something that home insurance covers you for. What's something you can make a claim for?
Possessions. Your possessions.
Possessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which more than likely, fire, flood. It's that sort of thing straight away, don't you? Which are 2 claims we would absolutely cover you for. If your house burns down, your house floods, we're going to cover you for it. But if I don't smoke and I don't live next to a river, all of a sudden those perils aren't tangible to me. because it will never happen to me. I don't smoke, so I'm never going to burn my house down. I don't live by a river, so my house is never going to flood. So you can see the correlation between the two there. One becomes actually, I can see how that relates to me. The other ones, it just couldn't be further away from me. So what we try and say is, as you get to know your customer, find out what's important to them. Now, in a mortgage journey, and we'll touch on this later in the call, there are many touch points where you get to know that person and you'll get to know what is important to them, which obviously the brokers do that anyway. But then is there something there you could link your home insurance conversation to? Example that we use, so we've got a bit of a campaign called at the minute is a value of a rucksack. And I use it as an example. So every time I go out the house, whether that's to, coffee shop, or I go to a meeting, or I'm just going to take the kids to one of their activities, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up my backpack, because I'm sat at a swimming lesson with the eldest kid for the next 3 hours while he's training away. As much as I love him, watching him swim for 3 hours is not ideal. I'd sooner be doing like some other things. But so I grab my backpack because it's going to make time pass. What do I carry in my backpack? First and foremost, I've got my mobile phone. Okay. I might do a bit of reading. So I've got my e-reader with me, whatever I want to read on time. My earpods, I'm going to listen to a radio, audio book, whatever I want to listen to. Weather's nice. I've got my sunglasses on. My wallet, everything in here, all my cards, my money, or whatever I need to it. I have the laptop because I'm going to finish off the bit of work that I was doing. So I'm going to put that in the bag with it. And because I'm taking my son to his swimming lesson, it's about an hour down the road, he's brought his Nintendo Switch with him. So he's going to play that in the car. I just picked up that backpack and threw everything in there and left the house. How much is that if you add that up in value? It's scary when you think about it. Your laptop, £500, Nintendo Switch, £200, sunglasses, £100, mobile phone, £600 if you've got an iPhone or something like that. I'm walking around with thousands of pounds worth of things without a second thought. And that's just the things that I've noticed immediately. I've got a wedding ring on. I've got a watch on. All those are the little things that you didn't think about. And without a second thought, I walked out the door. So something we tried to help some of the brokers with is flip home insurance on its head. Sell personal possessions as the core product. Because if you approached me as a broker saying, we can give you a product, Scott, that would make sure if your phone was stolen, lost, or broken, or your laptop, or you dropped your sunglasses, or somebody stole your wallet and took the cash out of it, or you had tickets that were for a train, a concert, the cinema, I took them out of it. If you lost it, I could give you a product that replaces those things. How much is that going to cost me? About £30 a month. So £30, £35 a month, depending on all that data you put in to get a quote, means that if I lose those items, you're going to replace them for me. Yeah. That doesn't sound that bad, actually. And I'll tell you what we'll do. We're going to put your buildings and contents on there as an add-on. So now the premium is going to be £35, £40 a month. I'll take that because now I've got what is important to me is these things. Because those are the things that keep my son from kicking the back of my chair when we're in the car on the drive down because he's playing the Switch, he's fine. It's the things that keep me sane when I'm in a meeting or I'm sitting in a coffee shop so I don't have to talk to other people. That's what's important to me. So that's how we try and get brokers to do it. It's a different way of doing it, but try it. It might work because all of a sudden, that's important to me. I don't smoke, so I don't think fire applies to me. I don't live by a river. Flood might happen to me. But you know what? I've broken plenty of phones and I've lost them. I'm interested all of a sudden. So it could be a good way to personalize the conversation in that way, Liz. That's what I would recommend.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Good. Yeah, that's fantastic, Scott. What follow-on question from that, you're talking about things that you're taking away from your home. What if a client's got a specified item that's worth kind of over £15,000, let's say, something that's really high value?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, very lucky. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You've had a good year. But yeah, good news is the product that the Primus advisors can get with us. The specified items we offer start from £5,000 to specify it, and depending if you went gold or platinum, could go from 20 all the way up to £30,000 individually for that one item.
Right.
So if you have got one £15,000 watch, you could insure it on the policy. You could absolutely put that on there. And there's no endorsements to it where you need to keep it in a safe or something like that. It's a watch that you wear on occasions, so you don't need to start installing that within your property. You've got it. And what's quite nice about the journey that we have is, as I said, it doesn't start until it hits £5,000. So if those items are less than 5, they fall into our unspecified pot. So even a watch costing £4,000 is incredibly expensive, but you don't have to specify it. You can leave it unspecified, which is nice. But our system won't ask you to prove that you own that item when you put it on risk. So if somebody does have that £15,000 Rolex, they haven't got to go, okay, well, I need a receipt of when you brought it, and I need the service history of the watch. Don't need any of that, because what if it's a gift? I don't have a receipt for that sort of thing. So all you do is you put a description of the item when you take out the policy, and should you ever make a claim, you'll then be asked to prove that you owned that item. Now, what's nice about that is, like I said, if it's a gift, you're not going to have a receipt. I mean, you might know the person that gifted to you and they might have it, but if they haven't, that's not the end of the world. There are other ways to prove that you owned an item. For example, you might have a wedding ring. Okay, well, you got photography from the wedding day. Have you got a photograph of the wedding ring on that you inherited from your mother or your nan or something like that? That's a sort of evidence that we can work with from a claims point of view. So again, insuring something that might have sentimental value to me for sort of £15,000, I'm going to want to make sure that's covered, because it's as much as the value of it, it means so much to me to make sure it's covered, even if I'm wearing it or not wearing it, and it's just sitting in my drawer. So we can absolutely cover those sort of high value items as well, Chris.
That's great. Thanks, Scott. I think in terms of opening up on the sales process side, how can advisors open up that conversation on personal possessions? I know we're focusing on this at the moment, but I think it's quite an important area. How can they do that? How would you advise them to do that?
So first of all, it's a bit about a conversation, and as you speak to them over the various parts of the mortgage journey, you're going to unearth a little bit more about that client, just through conversation and getting to know them a little bit. However, we have got a couple of tools which I'll quickly share the screen with you to do it. And the first one that I will show you here is your value of a rucksack, which is the exact task that I just did for you guys. And this is an advisor tool, so you can print this off, download it, whatever you want to do, and I'll make sure you get the links to this as well if you want to use this. But this is a nice document to simply put in front of a client. Now, they might be, in preparation to meeting you, or they might be, if you've got an office and they're in some sort of waiting room, they could fill it in. But it's a bit of a shock reality moment when they go through the checklist there at the bottom and they start typing in how much have they got them with them right now. So they're sat in your office ready to have a conversation with you about a mortgage, and they're going, okay, yeah, my bag's worth 50 quid. I've got my keys, my laptop's worth that. And then it'll total it all up for you. So automatically, you've just given the advisor everything here that you go, this is important to me. This is what I'm walking around with. So, it's easy for me to say, have a conversation, but hopefully this tool is one that's actually really, really helpful. So the customer's going to give you everything up front to go, this is what I've got right in front of me. Now, once you fill in all these answers, we have got a separate document, which is all about conversation openers, and it links back to the answers that you put on this document. So if you say something like, I've got a mobile phone, we could literally give you the words to use to open up that conversation. It might say, you've told us you've got a mobile phone, it's important to you. Things like, well, what do you do on your mobile phone? Well, it's got my banking apps, it's got all my contacts in it, it's my my camera, it's my life basically. So you're bringing them along already, aren't you, on that journey? Because then it's like you're sowing the seed. Hint, that'll be something we'll talk about shortly, but it brings them along that journey. So a nice little tool, that one. And like I say, we'll send the links out to that one. I think they're very open to give you that information from the get-go.
That's nice. I think we can definitely share those links. I like that. That's really handy. Something you talked on, you mentioned just when you were answering Chris there, was about like when the clients are sitting in your office or before the meeting. How important do you think it is to embed the home insurance as part of the overall meeting, and how soon should it be done, really?
Yeah, so it's $1 million question. I think that one is. Now, I'm not a broker, and I can't tell anybody how to do their job. But I think from doing it for as long as I have, The nice thing about GI, it can be spoke about at several points in a mortgage journey. You don't just have one shot at it. There are a few, and I'll talk you through that. So we've just launched a campaign, which you guys will be getting some emails about this soon, which is called sowing the seed of general insurance. Now, this is all about just planting the seed at little strategic parts in a mortgage journey, so nothing is a shock factor when you do come to actually put something live for a customer. They're well aware that this is going to happen, and you've brought them along that journey. And how I mean that. So mortgage journey, let's go be very, very high level with it. First, you have that first appointment. So they found a property they like, and they find a mortgage advisor. They come and speak to them, and you're just getting to know them a bit, and you're trying to work out, that's the house we want. We need to know if it's affordable for us. That's pretty much all that's going to happen in that sort of first journey, isn't it? Where that first meeting, when you get to know them a little bit. GI could be really, really good at that point, especially when you're using our Smart Quote system, because Smart Quote, and for those of you that saw the half-time events, works on very, very limited information. So at that point, all you need to get yourself that quote is their name, the date of birth, the address, the postcode, and have you made any claims in the last 5 years? That's all you need, and I've got myself a quote. Now, that will take you all of 30 seconds to get that information. Now, that does two jobs for you as a broker. The first one that it has done for you is it took you 30 seconds to get to that point. You've now got a price in front of the buyers, and you said, but you don't need to worry about that yet, because we're too soon into the journey to even think about activating that policy, but we've got it here. And what you get with that is that price is now guaranteed for the next 180 days. So why not guarantee the price now? Inflation's just gone up this morning. Does that mean your prices are going to go up tomorrow? No idea. But if you've done my quote today, I've got a guaranteed price. So that's a good way to do the quote. You've done it there. I've guaranteed you a price. Let's leave it sitting here so we haven't got to do it. The other thing it's going to do, it's going to work for budgeting. Because people will go, oh, I can afford that mortgage. That's brilliant. But can you afford the other things around the outside of that mortgage? Which is all the other products that the advisor are going to want to speak about. So at least they know very, very early on that X amount per month is going to have to go towards a home insurance policy. So they already know that. So they can work that into their budgeting as they go through that journey. You've obviously set that clear expectations from early on that you're going to speak about home insurance sooner than they realise in that journey, but you've planted that seed now. So it's not a shock 2-3 months down the line. You've set those expectations. You go to your next appointment, which is probably when you're at the application stage, when everything's gone well, and then you say, actually, yeah, we found everything, we're going to start applying for it. And this is when I think it's really nice to reference things in the policy about our USPs that we have in there. So this policy will come with home emergency. And what does that do for me? Well, that will make sure that if you need a plumber, an electrician, or somebody like a heating engineer, home emergency can do all that sort of thing for you. And this product does it. It will provide you with trace and access. So if you have a leak somewhere in the property, we're going to have all the tools to help you find that sort of leak. And you don't know what a house looks like by a couple of viewings. You know, how many times have you heard the horror stories of people moving to a house and go, they didn't realise this was wrong with it. Well, now they spend money on X, Y, or Z happening with it. So again, some things in these policies might help with some of those instances. Like I say, see what's in there. Again, working on a budget, we still don't charge a fee for direct debits. So that's always a nice USP to put across to people, that the money they're paying for the policy is exactly what they're paying, and they're not putting a percentage on top just for them to pay for something monthly rather than an annual. And the other thing that will help advisors sell it at that point is buildings is compulsory with all of those with the lenders to get the mortgage in the first place. So again, that's a nice way to actually say to the customer, saying, well, I have to do this, because if we don't do this and we get right to the last day and you haven't got a buildings policy in place, the lender might not release the funds and the whole sale could collapse overnight. So again, let's do it to make sure that's not a hurdle we have to jump through later in the journey. So it's about removing the hurdles all the way through that journey as early and earlier as you can. And again, you go on, you could go down to the mortgage offer stage, and that's when we come full circle back to personalising the quote then. What we've just talked about now, you know them really, really well now. Start using that value of a rucksack tool to now personalise the product. You haven't got to sell them the home insurance product because they've bought that now. They understand it. They've accepted they need that. Now it's about the personalisation to cement why that's so important. tech, jewelry, whatever they've got to it, that's when it becomes really, really important to them. And then it's still not too late. We still have advisors ring and panic going, I'm at the exchange stage. They're completing tomorrow. Like, how do I do this? We haven't got cover. It comes full circle. We're still going to be able to give you a quote within 30 seconds. You can still apply for that product within minutes after it. So it's not going to take you a long time. It's incredibly quick to still quote and apply. So it's never, ever, ever too late. And we will still give you things like mortgage interest letter. We'll give you that within the system that you can give, obviously, the solicitors or the lenders to say, cover is in place, release the funds. We'll give you that document. We will give you cover between exchange and completion, that grey period that nobody really knows who's liable. We will give you that. That's in the policy if you take it out with us. So the Sow Into the Seed campaign will be hitting you guys very, very soon. But, you know, please take from that there are a number of opportunities to talk about GI. Don't feel that you forgot it here. You've got another opportunity, believe me.
I really like the sowing the seed, and definitely an important factor, like you've articulated there, to talk about throughout the process, not just at the end of the day. Yeah.
I don't think there's many other products that can do that. It's harder with some of the other products. It really must be. So I'm pleased we've tried to create this new bit of marketing material to try and give advisors some tools. You know, it's fine just talking, giving ideas, but the physical tools I think are really, really important.
That's brilliant, Scott. How do primary advisors access LVGI then?
It's in Toolbox. How do you not know this?
I know it's Scott, but
I
how do the advisors access it?
I know. Well, this was the biggest bit of feedback we've had from obviously the halftime events, and everyone I stood up on stage, and the first thing that I said was, hands up if you know that you can buy an LV product, and the room is just like, you know, a couple of hands. I'm like, I'm not surprised, because you know the way like that we're on the quick quote part within Toolbox, not the builders and contents part, and the advisors just aren't clicking on it. So there's a big education piece we're trying to do at the moment in getting them to have a look at that. You know, there's a few providers under there. Click on the quick quote. You'll be pleasantly surprised. It's still the same journey as what you get with us direct, as what you can get in Toolbox. It's limited questions, and we underwrite the data for you, which I think is a big takeaway from this. So the things that I said at the start of the call, like living by a river. Now, let's be honest. If you're going to buy a house, you walk down the street, you look at the curb appeal of it, and that's about it, isn't it? That's all you take from your surroundings. If you go on Google Street Maps and you zoomed out to 400 meters, you might be horrified to see, I didn't realize there was a stream actually down the road that goes there. So that's within 400 meters of my property. I didn't disclose that. That could be a big problem. We won't ask you that question. You know, we won't ask you, do you have any tall trees that could cause you, problems with subsidence? We don't ask you that sort of question when it comes to trees. So we underwrite a lot of the data in Toolbox Journey. So as well as making the journey incredibly quick, we provide that brilliant level of protection of, you don't ask the question, we do it on your behalf, so we take that liability for you. So yeah, have a look for us in Toolbox under quick quote.
Brilliant. So we really support everything that you're doing here. It's absolutely fantastic, and I know a lot of our brokers would have seen you at the halftime events. Then we'll catch you on here. How because this has been so useful and so informative, and also one of the key things that we haven't really touched on is this is a constant base to keep you in touch with your client, isn't it? Because really every 9 months you're going to be picking up the phone or dropping them an email, which is so valuable at the moment when the marketplace is so competitive. So if our brokers aren't working with you at the moment, how do they get in touch? Who do they get in touch with? And is everybody as passionate as you?
I'd like to say I'm a unique character, but I mean, feedback from the halftime events went down pretty well, so I'll take it as a positive. But I live and breathe GI. I have to be in here for this long, so I am incredibly passionate, and I get no greater satisfaction than either somebody starts selling GI for the first time after seeing some support we've given, or something else where we've helped improve it, whether that is conversion rate or improve retention rates, and we work with them to improve that. That's me saying, tick, well done, you did something good there. So yeah, I get a lot of satisfaction for that, and I am incredibly passionate about it. And I think it's easy that obviously we can put a number of links on here where we have obviously support from myself, which looks after the whole of the Primus relationship and all the advisors within that. But then we do have regional account managers, we have our own telephone support team, all on hand to support as and when you need an agency setting up with us, or you need access for the first time. We can do all that with us, but that's just about getting it started. And I think what we don't fall foul of is, here you go, here's the system, good luck. It's about the hand-holding part of it, which sounds really silly and cringy, but it's true. You know, go and give it a go for a period of time, you know, a couple of weeks, just quote it, because that's the first step in selling. Quote. You're not going to sell anything if you don't quote. So start quoting it, and then we'll speak again in a couple of weeks. Okay, what's happened? You haven't converted in it. Okay, well, what did you do when you quoted? Well, I emailed it. Well, that's your first problem. When was the last time you clicked on an email and took out a policy that had been emailed to you? That doesn't happen. You know, insurance is sold, it isn't brought. You know, you have to get across the value of it, which is what we've talked about today. So, you know, it's about identifying, well, what's in your process that we could sharpen up or change or look at differently, and let's work with you to do that. And that's what we're incredibly proud and passionate that we do here. So we'll put all the various links on there to, obviously, from the contact point of view. But yeah, reach out, tell me what your specific problem is. Do you want to start? Do you want to improve? Or, you know, what is it? And we've got lots of material expertise that can plug those gaps for you and really and help where it's needed. And I will touch on that last bit that you did say as well, Lisa. I think it is so important. I'm glad you did say it, that GI, the fact it renews every 12 months is so important and valuable. And it was something we've said on many, many presentations before, that, you know, people are locking themselves into now longer and longer rates over a period of time, you know, 5 and 10 and more years beyond that, because they want to guarantee a rate, because they're a bit nervous about what does it do. But how do you pick up the phone to somebody after 3 years in a 10-year fixed rate and say, how's things going? It's a bit awkward. Like, you know, I couldn't imagine my broker calling me after not speaking to him for 3 years and just wanted a bit of a conversation. It's like, well, I don't speak to you. Well, you know, I can speak to anybody. Insurance renews every 12 months. Now, we will handle that renewal process for you. But if you want to know anything about it, you know, what's the renewal premiums, or when did you send out the information to my client, we can give you that information. So at least it means you could open up the call saying, I've seen your renewal premium. That looks really good. I